Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is all about conflict resolution in the workplace. My name is Steph. I go by the he, him pronouns, and I am the project manager here at Blossom LGBT. Before I pass the mic over to our fantastic host today, I would firstly like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to be with us for this much needed conversation. We are Blossom LGBT, an organization that exists to support and empower the LGBTQIAP plus young adults to succeed in all aspects of their social and professional lives. To save time, I'm going to say queer and trans from now on. For today's webinar, we're focusing more on the latter part of our mission. As we've collectively seen the rise of attacks towards the queer and trans community, we believe that now is the time more than ever to provide you with the tools and support to navigate challenging situations and conflict in the workplace, especially when it comes to issues around gender, sexuality, sexual orientation, etc. That's why we're excited to be collaborating with the founders of Ainomi. Today we've got Jan with us, and they will walk us through their signature process of conflict resolution in the workplace, and not as we know it. So, I would ask you to engage with us on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and for any anonymous feedback or questions, you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen. I would be off the screen now and over to you, Jan.
Thank you, Steph, for a really nice introduction. And hello, and a very, very welcome to everyone to today's webinar, Mastering Productive Conflict. My name is Jan, and I'm really excited to guide you through today's session where we will explore how to navigate conflict in a way that not only resolves issue, but also creates better relationships at work. So before we start, I just tell you a little bit about myself. This is me and my husband. So I'm Jan, his name is Matt. We founded company Ainomi about 4 or 5 years ago today, and we are LGBT-owned company. We predominantly focus on helping individuals, organizations, and teams to learn more about themselves and unlock full potential. Through a genuine self-awareness. And that's something that we will be looking into today, because increased self-awareness is something that helps us to navigate the conflict situation in the workplace in a better way. So before we start, I thought that I would ask a fundamental question about what do you think conflict is? When you hear the word conflict, what comes to your mind? So please, if you want, share in the chat, and I will see what is that you think of conflict. Well, conflict for me, or for us, from the Ainomi perspective, these are arguments, disagreements. This is a stressful situation. Conflict is simply a difference of opinions, but it always involve very strong emotions. And this is something we all encounter, whether in brief or explosive disputes or subtle or ongoing issues. Yes, so I see that we have emotionally charged disagreements. Amazing. Thank you for sharing. So, but here's the key. Conflict is not necessarily a bad. It is absolutely normal part of any relationships, and especially in the workplace. So the real question here is whether the conflict can be destructive or productive. And today, we are going to focus on how to make conflict productive and how to use the tool to improve communication at work. So managing conflict is about managing emotions, the way we respond to that. We can only influence what we are in control. We cannot control how other people react or behave. And that is one of the reasons why self awareness is absolutely essential and critical, not only for personal development, but also for managing conflict at workplace or in life. You decide. The qualities more critical for development overall, like emotional intelligence, empathy, influence, persuasion, communication style, communication overall, active listening, collaboration, they all stem from self awareness. So, understanding who we are in core, what are our motivators, stressors, talents, passions, strengths, but as well as the area for our development, it all help us to become the better versions of ourselves in the workplace. Now, what is really interesting is that self-awareness is, you can see in my slide now, is the meta skill of the 21st century. The research, this is a research, the data I'm showing you is a research from Germany for about 3 or 4 years ago by a German psychologist, and she did organizational psychologist. And she did this research about self-awareness, and 95% of respondents in her research said, yes, I am self-aware. I know who I am. I know uh, uh, how to manage my emotions, for example, at work. But the reality was that when she gave them an assessment, a test, she tested the self-awareness, that only 10 to 15% of people are actually self-aware. So now you can understand that working on self-awareness helps us not only with all of these great things like empathy and influence, but also understanding how do we respond to stressful situations, and conflict is one of them. Now, self-awareness is, learning about who we are. It's truly enlightening. It's amazing. You can learn that. But what do you do with that information in your real life? That's truly life-changing. That's where the magic happens. So before we actually tackle the problematics of managing conflict, or making conflict a productive conversation, transforming negative conversation into something positive, what I would like to dive deeper a little bit about on how you can actually increase your self-awareness and understand all of these nuances of who you are and how you may come across in a workplace. So what we use in our work is using a DISC model. So this is a research that's been done for 40 years. It's been around for 40 years. And it's a very powerful tool for understanding the human behavior, and especially in conflict. So if you know what are the motivators of yours and stresses of yours, but also those around you, then you can find the way, the right way to respond to the conflict. So what I would like to do is now a little exercise for you to say, uh, to understand where you are on the map of DISC, and maybe see where are the people that you have conflict with. So if you can think now, okay, am I an active, fast-paced, and outspoken person? Or I'm rather thoughtful, calm, methodical, and careful? So if you are the first one, you're most probably D or I. If you are the second one, you're most probably C or S. If you ask yourself another question, am I rather questioning, objective, skeptical, and challenging? Or I'm rather accepting, people focused, and receptive? If you are the first one, you're most probably D or C, or the second one, you're I or S. So this acronym DISC stands for four major behavioral choices, or let's say styles, behavioral styles of people. D for dominance, I for influence, S for steadiness, and C for conscientiousness style. So if you think now about how you tend to work and behave at workplace, and you think that you are a D style, you're most probably someone who values getting things done very quickly, who's motivated by results and challenging tasks. If you are a person who is very people orientated, who shares enthusiasm and taking action, you're most probably I person. If you think that maintaining status quo and having harmony within your relationships teams, you're most probably a CS person. And if you think that accuracy and following rules um, and um, and maintaining sort of a stability and challenging assumptions, you're most probably a C person. So if you think about that, where do you think you find yourself on a map of disc? If you want to share, please share in the chat box. Oh, probably C. Amazing. So I'm a D person. I'm very motivated by action, fast action, and getting things done. Now, what I would like to say is here that the disc is here not to label people, because labeling is disabling. It is more about understanding how people prefer to, what are their behavioral styles. So one part of self-awareness is about who we are at the core, but also the external self-awareness is how other people perceive us. How do we come across in a workplace? So, uh, so understanding your own disc style and those you interact with can significantly improve how you manage and resolve conflicts. So, what I would like you to think now about a colleague and a friend and try to put them on the map of disc. And this will help you approach conflict situation in the future. So I'll show you, for example, this is my style and my husband's style. So you can see where we have our comfort zone and what is our outside comfort zone, and what we are motivated by. I by action and results, and he is by enthusiasm and action. Now, we will now be looking into how do we actually come in a conflict situation, and what can be triggering for each of one of us. So learning about people's styles, if you think of, you can put people on the map and say, okay, so the person I had last time conflict is more probable C, and I think I'm I, then you can immediately see that there might be a lot of areas for conflict, right? But if you understand other people's behavior, you can then approach, if you understand, then it can help you understand their conflict behaviors and how they may differ from your own. And that's the key of it. So if you think of the DISC model now, we can look into what each style influences conflict behavior, and think about your own tendencies as we go through this exercise. So we have four types of people, and we have four types of responses. So D style. If you have a D star, you're likely to charge in a conflict situation. You may focus on control and logic and getting results. However, your directness might come off as aggressive and dominating to others, which could cause them to withdraw or become defensive. So this is very much about me. So imagine, for example, D person is someone who is in the meeting where a decision needs to be made, and a D person might push hard for their idea, insisting this is the best solution. While this can be effective in some times, it might also alienate colleagues who feel overpowered or diminished, or sometimes the people think that um, their way is the only way. So other people can just cave in and say, "Okay, I give up." Well, this is not what can I do now? So in conflict, the people focus on logic, but mostly on victory. If you think that you have a I style, if you identify more with the I style, you like prioritize keeping things upbeat and maintaining positive relationship during the conflict. I people are very often very expressive. They want everyone's feeling they are considered. However, they might struggle with being overly emotional or avoiding difficult situations. So there may be a problem and they tend to diminish the problem. They would say, okay, let's move on, let's put it somewhere else. Don't focus on that. In a disagreement, I people might focus on ensuring that everybody feels heard, but they might also downplay the seriousness of the issues, which is sometimes which can be very dangerous, because what they want to do is to avoid discomfort. So if you think that your style is an S style, so S style people, okay, I have a message here that someone is more like S style, haha, very good. So let's see. So this is now about you. So S style is a lot about harmony. So if people who identify with S style, they probably dislike conflict at all. They will go out of their way to avoid it. They prefer very calm discussions, and they are very likely to give in just to keep the peace. This can be helpful in maintaining relationships, but might lead to unresolved issues in the future. So an example can be when S person is confronted with a conflict, they might agree to terms that they are only comfortable with, simply to avoid further disagreement. So they would say yes to everything, but later on, the conflict will be much bigger, the problem will be much bigger. So the last style, finally, the C style, and we have a person with C style now on the webinar on the call. C people value precision and objectivity. In conflicts, they might focus on the facts and logic and consistency. However, they may struggle with emotions, understanding that this is not about facts and figures, that conflict is emotionally charged situation. And they might come across in a workplace as people who are very cold and detached. An example can be, for example, a C person could really dig deeper into the problem, into each argument in a conflict, but focusing solely purely on the data, and that can frustrate those who are more emotionally driven, like the I people or the S people. So what do we do with this? We have dominant people. They are that are in conflict, focus on logic and victory. We have I people who focus on expression feelings. We have S people focusing on feelings and consensus. And then we have C style, justice and logic. So you can see that, imagine we all have some bits and pieces of each of the style. Obviously, one style is always dominant, but you can now easily see how uh, uh, how difficult situation can be when all four styles meet in one room. So what I would like to do now is to show you a process, because productive versus destructive conflict, um, there's a process behind it. Um, Conflict can take a productive or destructive turn depending on our behaviors. So, what I would like to do now is to explore some of the common behaviors in conflict and how we can shift from destructive to productive. So, when conflict occurs, we sometimes respond destructively instead of productively. And it is our instinct, it is to protect ourselves. We may react too quickly or harsh. We don't even think about what we are doing. But beneath the surface, beneath our reaction, there's a process playing out. And every conflict triggers in what we call automatic thoughts. So, what could this automatic thoughts can be? So, yeah, so we have a conflict situation in a workplace, and now to my head goes, there's no way I'm backing down. I'm obviously right. I don't want to upset anyone here. This is not my fault. Some people can say, I need to take control over this situation. Some people could say in their head, if you push me, I push back. This is not for me. Um, as people would, for example, say, putting up a fight is not just worth it. I'm not doing this. Some people could say, I disagree because you have no idea what you're talking about. So what do we need to do is to think about arguing, making people unimportant. So when we look at the process, so we have conflict and we have automatic thoughts. And what I would like to see to show you what are the destructive responses. So what are the destructive responses? Arguing, defensiveness, dismissing opinions, drama, exaggerating, exclusion, finger pointing, gossiping, um, hypercriticism, overpowering, passive aggression, revenge, sabotage as well, sarcasm, stonewalling. Um, it can also be marginalizing someone's opinion. And this behavior can very quickly escalate conflicts and damage relationships. And they are very often triggered by our automatic thoughts, quick, subconscious reactions that guide our responses in conflict. So when you look at the destructive response, okay, I will show you. I'll put them here more. Okay. There's so many. Gossiping, making people unimportant. Yes. So what do we actually have to do is to look at where we are in the process, and instead of going straight to the destructive response, think about what are our automatic thoughts. So what we can do is to do a step back from the automatic thoughts and take the and when we do that, we can take the emotions around it away. We can then reframe. Doing so will put us back in control of the situation, and we can then choose more productive way forward. So it is about acknowledging feelings, recognize and validate the emotions of others if even if you disagree with them, or obviously if you disagree with their viewpoints. It is also about understanding, finding compromise, look for solutions that addresses the needs of all parties involved. Using logic. So that works very well because no one can argue with logic or figures. Focus on solving the problem, not just proving a point. So instead, for instance, instead of arguing, we can ask questions, open-ended questions. It's the best way forward. Sorry. Okay, sorry. There's a covering. No, I don't know what's. I'm sorry. I don't know how to take the timer out. Well, it's not supposed to be there, but I'm sorry if it's blocking the view. Um, um, in this slide, the part is the destructive responses, obviously, but sorry, I cannot do anything about it now. But thank you for pointing this out. So where were we? Okay, so for instance, the open-ended questions. This is amazing way how to address a conflict. Learn more about the other person. They may act out of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, lack of perspective, detail of the situation. They may not understand how the problem is affecting others. So open-ended questions are the best way how to create an environment from which you can grow a productive conversation. So instead of dismissing other people's idea, we can then express our concerns respectfully. We can then think about, okay, maybe the person is overreacting because it's not in the know of the facts, or I am overreacting because I feel I was attacked, or my project was attacked, or that part of my personality was attacked. But the key here is to recognize this is my automatic thought, and that is leading me to destructive behavior. And what I would like to do is to change that. So now when we speak of reframing, so how does this work in reality? We have the same thing. We have a conflict, we have an automatic thought, we have a first step back, and then we reframe, and then we have productive responses. So if I want to, for example, reframe my action, then before reacting, take a moment to pause and consider your emotion. Are you reacting out of anger or frustration? And this brief pause can help you choose a more constructive response. So, how do we reframe in our head our thoughts? How do we create a mindset of moving forward, of growth, of being inclusive? So, for example, challenge your initial thoughts. For example, if you think, They have no idea what they are talking about. Now you can reframe it. They are coming at this from a completely different angle than me. Now, when you say to yourself, you see that immediately you in your head you're creating space where you allow uh, yourself to be um, more open to compromise, to understand, to actively listen, to ask questions, and actually get the details and the information you need to navigate this process. One of the automatic thoughts can be, if they push me, I'll push I'll push back harder. And again, you must understand that not everyone has a high self-awareness. Some people work in a workplace environment, they don't even know how they might come across. I worked with many people in a global organizations who think. I give you this example. I worked with an amazing sales leader, and she was newly hired, and I worked with her because the problem was that she was the best sales manager the company hired in years. She had amazing results. Um, Everybody was applauding. The problem was that none of her team, it was a team of 15 people, could actually work with her. So what do you do as an organization? What do you do with that? The problem was that she was not aware that in a workplace, she's coming across as someone who's not encouraging dialogue. She was not asking people for their opinion. She came across in a workplace as someone who was very aggressive, very pushy, very domineering, and that's an environment people don't like to work. So if you're in a conflict situation, you have to be aware of the fact that not everyone has a high self-awareness, and people know about how they may be seen by the world. In their head, they are the best sales managers, they are the best marketeers, they are the best lawyers. So when we go back to the reframing, if they push me, I'll push back harder. Maybe they simply don't realize how aggressive they are coming across. So what I would like you to think about is some of the conflict situations you had, and think about, okay, what was my automatic thought? If I knew what I know today, how would I reframe it? How would I create in my head a space, a place from which I can handle the situation productively? So if we are able to create that space, then we can choose productive responses. So some of the productive responses can be, I put here listening as the biggest one, because active listening is, I think that could be a webinar on its own about how to do that. But ask question and listen. Start with apology and then explain. Absolutely amazing is to step back, to reflect, not to act impulsively from that moment. I think one of the best responses is to separate emotions from facts. As I said before, figures don't lie, facts don't lie. And when we take the emotions away, then what we have is just the evidence-based discussion. And then everyone has to do an informed decision about how to move forward. From my practice, I also see that communicating openly with honesty is also a good way to approach it. Be empathetic. Um, taking ownership of your part in the situation. It's not easy way how to respond, but it's definitely uh, an important one. Who asks the questions leads the conversation. Um, and of course, showing flexibility. Um, I think that's the first sign um, that helps people to get closer together and take step forward together. Let's put it this way. So, uh, encouraging an open dialogue. So basically, make space for everyone to share their views. Um, uh, Focus on solutions and not blame. I think this is very important because pointing fingers, you did it, you didn't do that, it's not my fault, it's your fault. This is not helping anyone. If you ask questions, how can we resolve this? What can we do together to move forward? These are some of the questions you may ask. I think very important is to give time and space. Sometimes people simply need time to process conflict before they are ready to resolve. So if the conversation becomes too heated, suggest taking a break. It doesn't have to be like 5 minute break. You simply say, look, um, it's not a good time. Thanks for bringing this up. Um, let's meet tomorrow. It will take the heat down. You will gain time to prepare. Bring your facts. Bring your information with you to the meeting next time you meet the person. So basically, applying those strategies can help you turn conflict into an opportunity for growth and collaboration rather than the other way around. So, as a summary, I have this. So the strategies: step back and reflect, reframe your automatic thought, encourage open dialogue, and choose a productive response. Focus on solutions, not blame. Give time and space for people to process. So, uh, before we conclude or wrap up, I'd like to um, ask if you have any questions you may have, whether it's about the disc style or specific conflict scenarios, the strategies we've discussed. Is there anything that's bothering you at the moment? Is there anything you'd like to ask me to give, let's say, a more practical, less theoretical answers? Do these 5 strategies work for each type, no matter which of the disc personality you identify with? Okay, amazing question. Thank you. So, when you do this exercise about placing people on the map of disc, you should also think about what are they motivated, what are their fears, and I'd say really, I know it so sounds a little bit weird, but put yourself in the shoes of the person you actually have the argument. That will better help you understand um, where they are coming from. What I want to also say is that just because you think, okay, uh, he or she is a D person, it's not an excuse for poor behavior. But we can assume that if you create a space where people actually can um, say what they have to say, um, if you create a space in your head that creates a platform for growth, then all of these five productive strategies um, will work. Now, navigating the process or thinking about it, this is not like um, how to say, uh, it's not gonna happen overnight. So you have to find some of the strategies. Not every strategy works for everyone, right? So if you feel that someone is a D person, and we know that a D person, D style people are motivated by getting results and fast action, well, then maybe giving them time um, and say, "Oh, I'll meet you tomorrow in 3 days," wouldn't really land. But what would most probably work? Let me get the facts together. Let's be um, let's let's be more organized and see what the facts are. If I were you, no, I shouldn't say that. But maybe what we could say, um, when this webinar is over, think about um, a recent conflict you experienced. Okay, so how did you handle it? What was your initial reaction? What was your automatic thought? And now, thinking about what we've covered today and what you've learned today, uh, how would you approach it? How would you approach it differently? Think about how would you reframe your automatic thought? What would you say to yourself to create a little bit more peace and take the emotions away? And what would be your strategy, one of those five or all of them, if you want um, to move forward with the conflict? So sorry, that was a very long answer to a very straightforward question. Sales, yes. So from the story you told earlier about the sales expert with great results, but an out of sync team of 15, if you were one of the team members, how would you go about addressing the situation? So um, again, we have to be very careful about the self-awareness of the other person, but I think open conversation is the best way forward. Saying how you feel and describing the environment that you thrive is always a good way forward. Um, Sometimes these issues are addressed in one-on-one or some uh, like not necessarily appraisals, but normally people have with their line managers one-on-one once in a while. So this might be expressing what is the thriving environment for you, how you would like to be communicated, because this is all about um, your self-awareness, just expressing we all have different ways how we learn, how we communicate. So for example, I like when people send me an email with 3 bullet points and just an action what I'm supposed to do. Some people like to read, they like to see the uh, the perspective where I am, where my work fits in. You must understand that very often conflicts I see in the workplace is that people don't know where they are in the process of, for example, teamwork. How do they impact? How do they don't know, or they are not able to identify. How do they know they succeeded? So if I don't know it, how my manager is supposed to know it? So these are the questions, or let's say I would address and explain about who I am and how I like to work. Question 3. How can we distinguish between a conflict that can be resolved informally and then one that requires formal intervention? Okay, so this conflict is all, as we said, it's emotions and it's very sensitive very often. If there is something, let's say you're in a conflict situation, you address it with your manager, and let's say a peer, and say, look, this is how I work. Let's find ways how we can work better together. And then you either find the ways and move on, or you don't. In that case, that's a problem to say, okay, we need a help. We need help finding ways to work together. So that I would address with my line manager, for example. But there can be situations that can be, let's say, charged by my personality. So again, we can say the space. These are my boundaries, right? I've just attended a really nice webinar about banter at work, and sometimes what people think is a joke is not actually a joke for me. So expressing my viewpoint on that, and again, it is about focusing on the solution, and giving information, being open about it. But again, I think there is always a limit to everything. So if you feel that you cannot find way, that you tried all of the strategies and nothing is working out, that would be something I would address with someone who can help me, whether it's my line manager or not. Would you say that conflict resolution requires a level of emotional intelligence? Does emotional intelligence plays any role in it? And if so, how can we improve it? So emotional intelligence plays an absolutely super important part of it. I think obviously you can, as I show you this as a part of the disc, there's another layer of it about emotional intelligence and understanding what mindset do you have and how to acquire the different mindset. Emotional intelligence is predominantly also about managing my emotions and how to do it. So there are some specific strategies on how to manage emotions in the workplace. Or I wouldn't say in the workplace, overall in our life. It's also being it's about empathy and self-awareness. So emotional intelligence is a little bit multifaceted approach to who we are, but absolutely. But again, you have to understand that people in conflict don't necessarily always come with some bad intentions, because they may not have high self-awareness, they may not understand emotional intelligence, they've never had a chance in their life to actually work on themselves. And so I think to be aware of it is absolutely important for you to manage the conflict better. So we have another question here. How should we handle situations where conflicts are rooted in cultural difference or communication styles that are influenced by cultural differences? So cultural differences are very interesting. Uh, I uh, have to say I've been a lot working with cultural differences and conflicts in workplace. Look, the the best way is to openly communicate, to say how you perceive things and how things are perceived in different cultures. I think the worst case scenario is when you hold it inside and then it bursts. And I don't that this is definitely um, not the best way forward. Um, Company culture is different, but when people come from different cultures, we also have to be appreciative of where they are coming from and their upbringing. And so, an open conversation about that is absolutely essential. Um, Overall, when you look at the conflict, it's about perspective. It's about taking emotions away and showing where we are and what we do in perspective. And cultural differences is one of them. Uh, what is acceptable here, what is not acceptable somewhere else, how people read our behavior in different cultures is all. It can be another another webinar on this, um, but I think ultimately I'd like to underline: if you're in conflict, ask questions, try to understand. Uh, how does this work in the country you're coming from? How do you read this where you grow up? And then gives you an understanding about where those people are coming from and who they are, instead of running into, okay, uh, this is my automatic thought and conflict is there. Because conflict, if it's not turned into a productive one, and some conflicts cannot be turned that way because conflict is minimum two people, right? So uh, if you see a way forward, ask the questions and help people understand the details. So, are there any other questions? Not from our end. Okay, so um, I think this is the end. Um, yes, so this is just what I presented to you. I want to just show you that this is the assessment that we are using for um, improving self-awareness and emotional intelligence for people. Uh, if you are interested learning more about how to develop yourself and become better versions of yourself at workplace and become then please get in touch with Blossom. um, and yeah, so this is all from me today. Thank you very much, and I wish you a great rest of the week.
Okay, I apologize, everyone. My laptop is really, really slow. Technical difficulties. Thank you so much, Jan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Whether you joined us live, you joined us later on, or you're going to watch the replay, we appreciate each and every one of you. Your questions were brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Um, As Jan mentioned, if you want to get in touch, you can just find us on Instagram or LinkedIn, or Jan, I don't know if you shared your social media or your email address. We can always post this up. Um, and if any of you watchers or someone you know may be interested in receiving further support with developing your professional skills for the workplace on a one-to-one basis, here at Blossom, we're proud to offer private mentorship for young adults from the queer and trans community to do just that. So reach out to us. You can find more information on our website if you go into the LGBT mentoring and employability scheme. You can drop us an email at employability@blossom.lgbt if you have any questions, queries about your mentorship program, or if you want to get in touch with Jan if you can't find their social media. If you enjoyed this webinar today and if you'd like to see what we have coming up next, do follow up on social media, on our Instagram, our LinkedIn, and check out our events. We post them usually on Outsavvy and Eventbrite, future webinars and in-person workshops. For example, I myself will be running a mixology workshop in October. So if you want to learn how to mix drinks, join us for that one. That's going to be in person. So you get to mix the drinks and taste them. And we do have mocktails as well. This is going to be an 18 plus event, obviously. Again, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Jan. And we hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.